So, as of today, the 19th, when I'm recording this, I been reviewing videos about the continued escalations in the world of all things Greenland, this little rock covered in ice that everyone seems to be obsessing with. And our President Trump, definitely, to me, is, from what I perceive, is displaying signs of tangentiality. I believe I'm saying that right. That's why he kind of goes off on talking points. He keeps changing of what his reasoning is, but doesn't really ever circle back to why he changes that reason. He just keeps going off to other things. There's several things in there. It could be of like ADHD and psychosis and dementia and whatnot. I'm not at all an expert on there, but just from my understanding of it, whereas circumstantiality would, he'd at least circle back to why that reason is, but so a bit perturbing to me, but is perhaps just his ego driving him, as I believe everyone's ego is, because this continued escalation about everyone ramping up instead of anyone taking a step back. When we were in the military, I was in the military. I guess those that were in the military would also understand, especially combat arms. We'd have things called a phase line. So when we move across, you have different phase lines at different areas. They could be color coded. They could have names like phase line alpha, phase line blue, whatever. Our platoon, would push up to a certain phase line, and we'd have to then understand to pump the brakes. Like, can't just go full gas, right? Even if we got ahead, like, of the other platoons, like we're supposed to advance together, we'd still have to wait for the other platoons to either catch up or get ahead, whatever the plan was, to hit their phase line for us to then continue on. And I think that's a good habit that a lot of people should learn to do, is knowing just when to pump the brakes. Like, people just keep wanting to push more and more. But I don't know, let me know what you think, especially if you served in the military and have any understanding of that and how you feel. Because for me, I believe military service, especially in that manner, teaches people a lot, because it'll kind of destroy egos, but then you also do get people that kind of get in the buddy system, which they're helping get rid of or do away with. And you'd get those toxic leaders, as they are referred to, as because they very ego driven. You'd see those guys, especially ones who gotta constantly tell you about how much of a man they are about every 5 minutes. It's like, okay, guy, sure thing. So that's pretty much all I'm saying is Ed, guess I'll go ahead and say, since I'm not being monetized at all anyways, but it's pretty much a dick measuring contest. Just everyone wanting to see who's gonna back down first, and of course people decide they're not gonna back down. Well, that's how wars begin. And the whole madness that I think it is, that whatever it is about this current administration that is obsessed with trying to own Greenland doesn't make any sense. That's just going to cost us more taxes to maintain that in the long run, when we're already allowed to do whatever we want there anyway. So we'd be better off just leaving it as it is. It's going to cost us less as taxpayers. That's just my feeling on it. Let me know what you think. the other topics I've seen is the treatment of ICE. Like, I've seen that they've been, or the ICE's treatment of people per se, not treatment of the eyes, but I mean, I guess it can pull into. I can understand the protest and against some and people's backlash, but I find that to be fair myself, as I find their presence and their mission is, I think, a bit out of their scope for what they're intended for. Especially, I don't believe, from what I've seen, none of them even wear body cameras, which I believe they should be. I'm back to my previous points of, all police, I think, should have to have their body cameras on, any kind of policing agency, and they shouldn't be able to be muted in any way. Because, say, the saying is, for their reasoning is, if they have to go over anyone's private information that they don't want out, but that could easily be edited in post, and they could remove that, either just muting it or deleting it. Like, it's 2026. I don't know why they're acting like that'd be a difficult process. As we've heard several cases, there you can look up a police officer muting their mic, and they're going over stuff and trying to, work around, hey, we gotta figure out a way to actually try to make something stick on this guy because we kind of screwed up, and there happens to be an officer who forgot to mute their mic or didn't cover it or turned around and showed that, hey, yeah, they're doing things that were wrong. So in my mind, at least, that would make sense. That's an easy fix right there. And the removing of their immunity would also hinder them in their aggressiveness, because if they rely on, hey, even if we do something wrong, we got qualified immunity and it'll cover us, so who cares? Like, if you can go through a job with absolute no recourse for any mistakes you made, you're not really going to worry about making mistakes. This is why I contacted, I've written a letter. I have yet to actually send it, but I've still proofreading it to make sure it sounds better, because I've never been the most articulate person. I say my time in the military, we didn't really need to be articulate. We were an action type of people, so it wasn't something I had to do up with, and due to my upbringing and abuse I suffered as a child and things, I wasn't ever allowed to speak, and kind of the same thing in the military, so I always supposed to keep my mouth shut, which made me unsure of speaking, which kind of affected me, I guess. But I just see all this madness going up, to people just being angry to be angry, it seems like, just wanting to be on one side or the other. No one's really talking to understand one another, trying to figure out a way in between. Everyone seems to want violence, and as that's something I did for a living, I know how easy it is, but you know how fragile life can be, that you don't want to, at least in my country, I don't want to see that. I think there's simple things we can do to implement to just calm all that down. It just would take people to have the courage to put aside their egos and the need to have to be right. I think when people learn to admit they are wrong about things, that is actually, at least for me, has always been a relief. Like, hey, I'm not right. I was wrong. The need to be right is probably one of the biggest things that hindered the human race from actually advancing. And I've been in the situations I've been in that have got me to myself having to learn to stop and pump the brakes of my life, as it were, and to reflect on the things. And as I've picked up journaling and things to write out my thoughts and reflect on my day, which I think would do everyone good, to take a self-reflection and see if you're behaving in the manner you need to be the person you want people to perceive you as. I think that's all I'll have for this video. Let me know what you think about any of these topics, and again, if you're gonna comment, keep it in the guidelines. Don't say anything crazy. Alright, so just have you removed.